worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring. Sing it out. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, we live for you. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder. Show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to the
The next reading is from Exodus 28, verses 1 to 4 and 30 to 38. Have Aaron your brother brought to you from among the Israelites, along with his sons Nadab and Abihu, Eleazar and Ithamar, so they may serve me as priests. Make sacred garments for your brother Aaron to give him dignity and honor. Tell all the skilled workers to whom I have given wisdom in such matters that they are to make garments for Aaron, for his consecration, so may he serve me as priest. These are the garments that they are to make: a breastpiece, an ephod, a robe, a woven tunic, a turban, and a sash. They are to make these sacred garments for your brother Aaron and his sons, so they may serve me as priests. Also put the Urim and the Thummim in the breastpiece, so they be over Aaron's heart when he enters the presence of the Lord. Thus Aaron will always bear the means of making decisions for the Israelites over his heart before the Lord. Make the robe of the ephod entirely of blue cloth, with an opening for the head in its center. There will be a woven edge like a collar around his opening, so that it will not tear. Make pomegranates of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn around the hem of the robe, with gold bells between them. The gold bells and the pomegranates are to alternate around the hem of the robe. Aaron must wear it when he ministers. The sound of bells will be heard when he enters the holy place before the Lord and when he comes out, so that he will not die. Make a plate of pure gold and engrave on it as on a seal, holy to the Lord. Fasten a blue cord to it and attach it to the turban. It is to be on the front of the turban. It will be on Aaron's forehead, and he will bear the guilt involved in the sacred gifts the Israelites consecrate, whatever their gifts may be. It will be on Aaron's forehead continually, so that they will be acceptable to the Lord. This is the word of the Lord.
So, Pastor Joe, we have, in the next 15 minutes, we have our kids there. So what should we talk about?
You know what I want to talk about?
Huh?
I'm going to tell you what I want to talk about.
Okay, I don't know.
I'll tell these people instead.
Okay, I don't want to talk to you.
Do you know that some experts believe that the first person to not die has been born?
Now, that's deep.
They believe, some people believe that the technology will be created in the lifetime of some people already born that will keep them from dying. Now, old guys like you and me, we might not make it.
I don't think...
Actually, you know what I tell people? Nothing can kill this man. He will outlive all of you. He's going to outlive every person in this room by at least a few decades.
Thank you for changing it, because I want to live. But yeah.
Yes, so they believe the technology will happen in a short enough time that people now born will not die.
Wow.
And interestingly, Jesus has another opinion.
Mm-hmm.
The expert in the law comes to Jesus and says, how can I live forever? How do I get eternal life? And Jesus doesn't say, hold out for Elon Musk.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he doesn't.
No, he says something altogether different. And I'm not sure it's the answer I would hold out for.
Tell the people, what does he say?
He said, if you heard the young man reading, he said, it's in the law. What does the law say? And the guy is an expert in the law. He knows everything the law says. And he's playing information games, knowledge games. And they settle, Jesus and the experts settle on two things. It has nothing to do with technology. They say, love the Lord your God and love your neighbor as yourself. And somehow follow those two laws and you can live forever.
Well, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and spirit. Love your neighbor as yourself. Wow, I wonder if many people in this place struggle with loving their neighbor.
Have you seen these people? Not a soul.
No, I know. No. But there is something about that love the Lord your God with all your heart, love your neighbor. And this will become the context from which Jesus is going to actually speak, and he's going to use a metaphor and that of a good Samaritan, which we just read. So there's quite a lot of things that stand out.
Yeah, I
from
mean, the
that.
man, he wants to live forever, but now he wants to get by in a technicality. So he says, well, who is my neighbor?
Mm-hmm.
How do I know if I'm loving the right person?
Wow.
Which one should I focus on?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't have enough love to go around for everybody.
That's right. And so tell us then, how did Jesus do it?
Well, Jesus, he gives this surprise story. Now, usually in ancient Israel, today, if you tell a story about a pastor, usually it's a joke with a punchline. A pastor, a priest, and a rabbi walk into a bar, and there's a joke waiting to be told. Jesus tells this similar kind of story. He says there's a priest and a Levite and a Samaritan, and you're expecting this Samaritan to be the punchline. He's the joke. And yet, it seems the priest and the Levite, they are the ones who they're the punchline. They don't deliver. And the shock and surprise is that the good Samaritan is the hero of the story, not the priest or the Levite.
What's so unique about the Samaritans?
Well, the Jews and the Samaritans, it's kind of like Albertans and Saskatchewanites. Is that what you call a person from Saskatchewan? I have no idea. Albertans, they do all the right things. They worship correctly. They obey the right rules. And the people from Saskatchewan, they just don't know any better. God bless them.
What's wrong with you?
And so it's kind of like that with the Israelites and the Samaritans. The Samaritans, just according to the Israelites, can't do anything right. They don't worship right. They don't believe right. Ethnically, they're impure, like people from Saskatchewan. They just have all the wrong things going against them. And so the Israelites have sort of shunned them. They won't even step on their land. They walk around their land. They won't share the same dust as these people. And so Jesus is going to tell a story about a man who does what is required to live forever. And the shock is it's not a good priest from Israel. It's a good man from Samaria.
Oh, so Jesus used a story about the very people who are rejected, who are not acceptable, who are not mainstream, and he makes them the main story.
He's the hero. Now, this is good news even for people in Alberta. Because so often, I think we fall into this belief about ourselves that great things are not expected from me. I just can get by. I just have to get up and go to work or go to school or whatever it is, and that's good enough. And yet there's this incredible promise in this story that the person you expect the least from delivers the most.
Just as again,
the person you expect the least from has the most to offer in this story. And the person you expect the most from actually offers the least. And it's this great upside-down reversal of good news for all of us. If you have ever in your life felt like someone that no good might come from you, maybe the most good can come from you and through you.
So how do you think that affect how do we relate it in the family Sunday like this? How does that touch just related to our kids and the family?
There was a shepherd boy, a prophet named Samuel came to visit the family of Jesse and believed that the next king of Israel would come from that family. And so he told Jesse, the dad, line up all your sons. And so Jesse lined up all his sons, and Samuel was expecting to pick the next king. And he went through son by son by son and said that the king is not here. Is this all of your sons? And Jesse, David's father, says, well, I have one more boy out in the pasture, but he's the little one. He's kind of the useless one. We just leave him out in the fields with the sheep. And Samuel said, get him also. And he finally brings in David, and sure enough, David, the one they expect the least from, he is the one that is the great king of Israel. He is the one from whom Jesus will descend. He is the kid who will defeat the giant Goliath. Nobody expected it from David. And I think that's true for us and our families in so many ways. We leave the big work to the adults, leave the important tasks to mom and dad. Kids, just be quiet. Just don't disobey. Don't make a mess. Just maintain order. And we will show you how it's done. And maybe our children have something to teach us about what it means to love well.
That's a good one. That's deep. No, there's something about, the people, like Jesus said that the kingdom of God is for such as these, like the children. He said, again, into modeling that. The disciple were saying to the kids, well, don't let
Stay
them
away.
interrupt the service. And Jesus said, no, they're the main thing. And you got to keep the main thing. And what seemed to be an interrupting factor, Jesus said, no, is the main story. And so maybe it helps I think we have 3 things we want to tell you before actually just closing this service. But maybe let's talk about the road to Jericho. So the story mentioned is a journey about a man who is on the way somewhere to Jericho. So from Jerusalem, it's a very windy street. And so, and a loss of, there's bad people there, lots of criminal looming somewhere in the horizons, in the bushes. So they attack this guy and they leave him incapacitated. He can't move. He cannot serve. He cannot show up at work. He can't be a father. He can't show up for work. He can't be the person that he meant to be because he's broken. And right there at that scene, Jesus freezes the story. Here's a story of a man who is going somewhere, whose journey is stopped, interrupted by criminal. Now, the second story is about 3 other people who are now on the journey, and this guy, a good Samaritan. And so he's on the way now to somewhere. We aren't told exactly where he's going. But perhaps he's going still to Jericho. He's going elsewhere to Jordan. And there, as he's walking, we are told before this man, this good Samaritan, some priests have already passed by. Some
There's
Levite.
a bloody, naked man on the side of the road that clearly needs help. And I'm sure if he could see anything and he saw the priest coming, he would be thinking,
Yeah.
oh, praise God.
Yeah.
The man of God is here to help
Yeah.
me. But the man of God did not help him.
He didn't help him. What about the man of God make him not help? A broken person, after all, isn't that the gospel about helping the downtrodden?
There's this whole, we've been hearing about the laws. We read the 10 Commandments, which are part of the law, and Corello, my son, he wrote parts about the worship and the following of the commands and the laws. So that while there's the most important laws that might be love God and love your neighbor as yourself, there are other laws, especially for priests, that say, do not touch a dead body, because if you touch a dead body, you are defiled.
So just slow it down. So this priest was having a problem which law to obey. Because if he goes and help,
and the man dies, the priest will be unclean. He will be defiled, and that means he won't be able to work in the temple. He won't be able to make sacrifices and serve the people.
So if he serves, if he stooped down and helped the broken, he is going to break one law. So what do?
Well, the priest just walked on
He just walked on. He just avoided him. And then the Levite too.
And surely this time, again, the man was probably thinking, praise God, help has come.
Mm-hmm.
I will not die here at the side of the road.
Mm-hmm.
But that man too just walked on by.
So which of the act or the character can you relate to? The person who's broken, the priest, the Levite, the Good Samaritan? Which one do you relate to? Which one do you relate to?
I think I relate to the expert in the law that's asking Jesus these questions about how to get out of doing anything important. That's.
I didn't give you that option. Why are you using that option?
Who is my neighbor? I don't. Which are the options? I don't know.
Well, I told you about the priest who walked by, the Levite, and the broken man who's there in the street by the side of a road, and the Good Samaritan. Which one do you relate to?
I think the expert in the law relates to the priest and the Levite, because they're playing this game. Which laws are most important? Which ones should I really worry about following so I don't have to bother with these other ones?
Yeah.
And I think that's a game we play sometimes. What rules should we keep? We should make sure we go to church, and we should tithe, because if we don't tithe, then Daniel won't be able to pay the bills. And we figure out, we spend so much time obsessing over some of the smaller things, and we can fail completely to deliver, to offer something great towards the big things.
So the idea of this person who is broken, I think in many ways I can relate to him, and I think many of us can. That part of you is just broken. Maybe it's your relationship. And people avoid you. If you're a divorced person, you have a broken relationship, lots of people just take the other way. Or maybe you have a struggle. You're struggling with something. People avoid you. You have any, maybe relationship issues. The sense, where do you tend to avoid people the most? Who do you tend to avoid most? Maybe you've seen people on the street. We just take the other way. We avoid them. But he talk about a broken humanity. This man laying down in the side of a road is a metaphor of a church that is broken. It's a metaphor of a family that is broken. A person whose interior is fractured, who is injured by the waves of the sea and the winds of our society that come, the winds, the ideology that break you down. Right there. He cannot move. He cannot reach out. Now, most of us can relate. Sometimes we are the broken person. Sometimes we are the priest. Sometimes we are the good Samaritan. But we really surely are not just one person all the time. The character could be us all. But there's 3 points that I want everybody to take on in the next 5-10 minutes before we take our seat. I think the first thing that we need to notice about this story is, number one, the story about accepting to be interruptible. You see, the Good Samaritan is a good Samaritan because he was willing to be interrupted. What can you say about interruption?
Frankly, I don't really like them very much.
Yeah.
That's most of what I have to say. Especially when I have something important to do. This is where I identify with these priests. They're on their way to work. They got things to do in the temple. They got to serve God and serve His people and do all these very, very important things. And I relate to that at times. Sometimes one of the things I least like to be interrupted when I'm doing is if I'm thinking deeply, if I'm writing a sermon, especially when I'm processing ideas and trying to choose words and structure things. And over a lot of COVID, I would do this from home. I would work at home, and that was because just by me being present, my little guy, he would see me there and think I was there for him, and so he'd come over and he'd poke at me and tap me and say, "Hey, I want a snack. I want a drink. I want some chocolate milk." And just these interruptions when I'm trying to do something important. So I was tempted just to blow up and say, "Why are you interrupting me? Just stop it. I'm trying to prepare something to love God and love my neighbor well, and you just keep interrupting me."
I know. When I sit, as you talk, I was going to interrupt you. But more and more I remember we decided to have babies. We have 3 kids, and it's beautiful. Then, immaculate conception. My wife got pregnant. Immaculate conception. And then we had a baby. And then in the middle of the night, we're having a good night's sleep. And I said, this baby is crying out of control. So I hit my wife, saying, like, baby is crying. She, honey. And then she goes, and she interrupts her sleep and goes and take care of her baby. And then repeat. And then repeat. One of the things that I really have appreciated most and admire most about mothers, about my wife in particular, has been the sense of her willingness to be interruptible. You know, there is something about life. There's something about the gospel. In fact, every miracle that Jesus ever performed, he was interrupted. It seemed that there is something divine about some of our interruptions. And that we may need to learn to see where God is in some of those interruptions that may be shaping of our lives. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense to you. And the sense that some of those interruptions could actually be divinely orchestrated. And to be careful about those moments of interruption. And especially for kids, is when they come and interrupt you and you stop and you listen to them. That's when perhaps they feel most loved. So interruptions may not be a waste of time after all. Tell me more. I know you don't like interruption. Like, what are you
This
thinking
is
about what I'm
something
telling you right now?
that I have seen you do well. Daniel and I have often been in meetings with people or families or couples or whatever it is in church on Sunday mornings. And even when there are people waiting outside or there's someone waiting down the street or at the rest, whatever it is, if the moment demands an interruption, you make space for it. And that is often where people, they haven't been ready to talk the whole time we've been with them until that moment. And finally they're willing to speak. And when that was when, because you were willing to listen most. Sometimes at church on a Sunday morning when we've got things to do and events that have to keep it moving forward, and yet you are open to the interruptions that come.
Thank you. That's really good. That's the only compliment you have ever given me.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to make up
It's my turn to talk.
But,
It's my turn to talk. Sometimes interruptions are divine appointments. Those are the places where God want to meet you. When the Holy Spirit fell at Pentecost, it was an interruption. It was suddenly. So when you read the book of Mark, you hear that there's suddenly, immediately of God, where God interrupted his people. So do not neglect divine interruptions. Do not neglect those moments. And the second point that is important to remember here.
Yeah, as much as the Good Samaritan was willing to be interrupted, he stopped, he used his oil and his wine to care for this man and to get him to safety and to take him to an inn and to hand over his care. He did all of that and then continued on his way. He was still determined to finish the business, to finish his journey, to finish what the good work he had started. He was willing to be interrupted from it, and then to continue on it. And I think so often in our world these days, there is so much going on. There is so much stress. There are so many anxieties from every corner. And it's so easy to be consumed with whatever issue seems the biggest in your eye in the moment, and that we fail to focus on what is still on the other side to be done, the mission that God has given us, that He has called us to and to give our lives to. And we can get sidetracked so easily that we never get back on track.
And that's so important about compassion, especially for people who have so much compassion. You have compassion, and then you see this person on the side of the road, and you can create a whole culture about helping this person. And yet also you have a journey. And that's what Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. There's an assignment over your life. And that though we accept interruption, and we need to, much of the good in humanity happen when we allow ourselves, we welcome those interruptions, and we meet God in them. But this man did not let that his compassion get on the way of getting to his calling. Sometime, there is a place God called you to. And so this guy didn't really stop everything he did to make it all about this man. He made it equally about the broken and about the mission that God have put into his heart. And I think there is something that we need to learn about that. You need to finish the journey. God have called you and set you in a path. And there's going to be a lots of things. Sometimes wolves will be there. Dog will bark at you. The enemy will stand, but don't be distracted by it. And don't be even distracted by helping. Sometimes helping hurt. It's very easy to be distracted by all those stuff. But he said this man had a sense of a mission. And the mission to which God called him was higher than any little stop on the way. But this stop was redemptive, and you need to be interrupted. But don't let your life be about the interruptions. Let your life be about the mission. Finish the journey. Paul said, I've run the race well. There is a journey for you. There is a race for you to run. You got to run that race and run that race well. I don't know. I hope that makes sense. No, be interruptible and yet finish the journey. I mean,
Yes, absolutely. So there's one more character. You asked us which ones we identify with so far, but there was one more still to get to.
one more.
And the third thing we want to say is to be like the innkeeper.
Mm-hmm.
There's this one more anonymous character who plays a pivotal role in the healing of this broken man.
It's so important to just think about it. You are interruptible, and that's a good character. But you are committed to the journey, whatever God have called you. But the innkeeper, notice also the way the good Samaritan did. He did not nurture this person to help. He had oil, he has everything that was required to help. But what he did, he takes the person to the innkeeper. So he takes the person to the place where the person will be helped the most. You see, you are not the one to meet all the world's needs. You're not the one to satisfy the world's problem. You're not the one to heal the world of all its illness. Sometimes your job is to be the bridge, to help people find that hospice where qualified help can be received and ministered to. And that if you take it upon yourself, the burden of curing and being Moses and being everything to everyone, you will burn. What this good Samaritan teaches us, what he taught us, is that sometimes the best way of helping is to help people find the place. And that innkeeper can be the AA, the local AA for somebody who has an addiction. Sometimes, like, I'm not the one to set the person every day, but AA is a great place. It's an innkeeper. Sometimes it's a great place for somebody. And sometimes maybe the soup kitchen. Sometimes it's just finding those places. The hospital may be that place. And we are also to be the hospice of care. I think there is something redemptive about learning to help people find the place where they will be cared the most.
We, as a church, we have made it our mission to be a place where broken people can come and be connected to God and each other.
Praise and worship team,
Together,
you can come, by the way.
As a church family, we create an inn for broken people. And here you get to serve. You get to be a part of that. You get to be the innkeeper. You get to extend the opportunity for healing to others. Parents in your home, you get to model this with your kids. Can you create space? Daniel, you talked a little bit about about the practice of preparing an extra plate.
Yes, part of it is just, how do you do this? Like in our home, whenever we cook, we make extra. It's not wasted. We love leftovers. We do. But the whole point is to just practice hospitality. When you cook, make room in your table for somebody. And sometimes we get so used to having it all planned. You got to call me in order to be before you show up. You got to have it all planned. How about growing in that discipline of opening your home? Make room for the visitor. Make room for the stranger. Make room for those who are seeking home. Make room for somebody, the unexpected visitor who may be knocking at the door. There's something about that and being a hospice of love and care. And let me close with just one more story. You see, Martin Luther King, he tells this story very, very, very well. The danger that the Good Samaritan went through. He put himself, his life in jeopardy for somebody else. It reminds me of a story of a pelican. You know, anybody know what a pelican is? There's something quite unique about the pelican. And I think that animal, that bird really exemplify how we ought to be as a church, as pastor, as brothers, as sisters, as people who stand for other people. Hear this. And this tradition have been really great. In some lots of ordination, they'll give you a cross, and in the back of the cross there is a pelican. It's a way to remind you of something. When everything else goes dry and the pelican is trying to find food for his babies, and there is no food and there's drought, there's no food to feed your children. You know what the pelican does? It will gather its children and it will begin using its beak, it will begin to peck on its chest. It will begin to rip its chest apart and begin bleeding. When the blood flows, the baby get to feed from its blood. It put its own life in jeopardy, in danger for its own. The Bible says no greater love has there ever been that a man should die and lay down his life for his own. This is what the church is. To bleed for the world, for others. And that's what Jesus Christ did. He gave his life for our sake. You know, the priest and the Levite, when they saw this broken person, they said, what would happen to me if I stopped to help this person? Because if I stop to help this person, maybe the people, the thief and those bandits will come and they will destroy my life. But this good Samaritan, he didn't say, what will happen to me if I stop to help this person? He thought, what will happen to this person if I didn't stop to help them? May God grant us strength and patience and poise so that we may allow our life to be interrupted. We may put our lives on a line for others, for those who are broken. Maybe you are the broken. Maybe you are, I don't know where you find yourself here today, but may God give you strength to live redemptively, to give of all that is in you so that the world may heal. God bless you.